What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and we're going to wrap up our time in Gotham City for now, close the book on the Burton Schumacher Batman verse with 1997's Batman and Robin, starring George Clooney, Chris O'Donnell, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Uma Thurman, Alicia Silverstone, Michael Gough, Pat Hingle, John Glover, Elle Macpherson, Vivica A. Fox, Robert Swenson, and Coolio. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And like I said during the introduction, today we're going to wrap up our time in Gotham City for now. We're going to close the book on the Burton Schumaker-Verse. Of course, we've got the Nolan trilogy coming up soon. And we're going to take a look at what is Batman and Robin. And as our movie opens, Batman and his partner Robin encounter a brand new foe, Mr. Freeze, who has left a string of diamond robberies in his wake. During a confrontation in the Natural History Museum, Freeze steals a bigger diamond and flees, freezing Robin and leaving Batman unable to pursue him. Batman and Robin soon discover over time that Mr. Freeze was originally Victor Freeze, a scientist whose career was devoted to working on discovering a cure for McGregor's syndrome, with hopes of healing his terminally ill wife who suffers from the disease. After a lab accident, Freeze was rendered unable to live with average temperatures and forced to wear a cryogenic suit powered by diamonds for survival. Meanwhile, at a Wayne Enterprises lab in Brazil, botanist Dr. Pamela Isley is working under the deranged Dr. Jason Woodrow, conducting experiments with a drug called venom. There, she witnesses Woodrow use her formula to turn serial killer Antonio Diego into a hulking monstrosity whom he dubs Bane. When Isley threatens to expose Woodrow's experiments, he attempts to kill her by overturning a shelf of various toxins. Isley ends up transforming into the beautiful and seductive Poison Ivy before killing Woodrow with her poisonous kiss, setting fire to the lab and escaping with Bane. Ivy discovers that Wayne Enterprises funded Woodrow, although they eventually cut Woodrow's funding. Poison Ivy concocts a plan to use Wayne's money to support her research and goes to Gotham City with Bane. Meanwhile, Alfred Pennyworth's niece, Barbara, makes a surprise visit and is invited by Bruce to stay at Wayne Manor until she goes back to school. Bruce Wayne and Wayne Enterprises donates a brand new telescope for the Gotham City Observatory at a press conference, which is interrupted by Isley. Isley proposes a project that could help the environment, but Bruce declines her offer on the basis that it would kill millions of people. That evening, Wayne Enterprises holds a charity event with special guests, Batman and Robin, and Ivy decides to use her abilities to seduce them. Mr. Freeze ends up crashing the party and steals a diamond from the event, and although he is captured by Batman and detained in Arkham Asylum, Freeze eventually escapes with the help of Ivy, who kills 2 security guards with her kiss in the process. Meanwhile, Dick discovers that Barbara has been participating in motorcycle races in order to raise money to help Alfred, who is dying of McGregor syndrome. However, friction arises between Batman and Robin due to Ivy's seduction of Robin. But Bruce is eventually able to convince Dick to trust him. Ivy is able to contact Robin once more, kissing him but failing to kill him due to Robin wearing rubber lips. Meanwhile, Barbara discovers the Batcave, where an AI version of Alfred reveals that he has made Barbara her very own suit. Barbara dons the suit and becomes Batgirl. Ivy then captures Robin, but Batman rescues him just as Batgirl arrives to subdue Ivy before revealing her true identity to the pair. Batman, Robin, and Batgirl decide to all go after Freeze together, but by the time they find Freeze and Bane, Gotham City is completely frozen. Bane attacks Batgirl and Robin, but they eventually defeat him by detaching his venom tubes, halting the flow of venom to his body. Batman is able to defeat Freeze in combat, while Batgirl and Robin manage to thaw the city. Batman then shows Freeze a recording of Ivy during her fight with Batgirl, who had informed the latter that she killed Freeze's wife. However, Batman tells Freeze that his wife is still alive in a cryogenic slumber at Arkham Asylum, waiting for him to continue his research to try to save her. Batman then asks Freeze for the cure that he had created for the lower levels of McGregor syndrome so that he can administer it to Alfred. Freeze atones for his crimes by giving Batman the medicine. And our movie ends with Ivy being imprisoned in Arkham Asylum with a vengeful Mr. Freeze as her cellmate. Alfred is cured of McGregor syndrome, and everyone agrees to let Barbara stay at Wayne Manor and fight crime with them as Batgirl. Okay, this movie gets a lot of crap, and in some places rightfully so. I mean, when you look at the tone of Batman and Batman Returns, very dark, very gritty, very, just typical Burton style movies. And then you look at Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And obviously they're a little bit more lighthearted. As we discussed yesterday with Stat Boy, the tonal shift was to try to sell more toys, marketed more towards kids, so things are a little bit lighter, a little bit funnier, a little bit campier. But that being said, like I said with Stat Boy yesterday, I feel that Chris O'Donnell as Robin really helped anchor the film down and make it watchable. And I even really enjoyed Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. The entire storyline with Alfred being sick and dying and, him telling Bruce that I'm not going to be here forever. Such a great storyline to have within the film. Like, it brought this heart and this soul to this otherwise virtually unwatchable movie. But I feel like that storyline within the film really makes up for a lot of the shortcomings that are George Clooney as Batman, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Freeze, the nipples on the bat suits. Like, you take all of that stuff that made this film like, really, WTF? But then you factor in that storyline, and I feel like it really, really kind of helps, you know, it just helps make it a little bit better. And I feel like if there had been more of that and less of the villains, which obviously you can't have because Batman needs his villains, and they upped it from 2 to 3 this time by having Freeze, Ivy, and Bane. But if we had focused more on the Alfred story and less on the campy Freeze, I feel like this movie would have been 10 times better than what it already was. You know, Coolio has made statements since the release of this film that had the Burton Schumaker-Verse continued, his character was going to evolve into the Scarecrow. That would have been interesting to see. I don't know about Coolio as the Scarecrow. Granted, I never watched the animated series, so all I have to go off of the Scarecrow is the Nolan verse and what they used of him in Gotham. I can't see Coolio in that role. But talking 1997, Coolio was still a hot commodity at the time, so I can understand why they might have wanted to try that. And it definitely would have been an interesting take to see. But I'm kind of glad that all we got of him was his little cameo in here. There was also a brief appearance by Jesse the Body Ventura as one of the security guards who Ivy kills while busting Freeze out of Arkham. I didn't list him in the opening credits because I didn't think about it when I was writing it down, but, so you've got that connection there. I do feel like this film is kind of given a little bit too much crap. I'm not saying that it doesn't deserve some. I'm not even going to sit here and say that it's not the weakest of the 4 Batman movies that I've just talked about. But I feel like it's a little bit more watchable than people make it out to be. And I'm curious to see what you guys think at home. So please make sure you let me know. When it comes to my rating of Batman and Robin, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. And I know a lot of you might think that's high. But again, Chris O'Donnell is Robin, Alicia Silverstone is Batgirl, and the Alfred storyline. If I'm giving a star for each of those, there's the 3 right there. I felt like Uma Thurman did a great job as Ivy. She was definitely sexy and seductive, and she played the role beautifully. The only ones that I really feel that were miscast were George Clooney as Batman and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Because Mr. Freeze is supposed to be this frail, kind of weak individual until he gets in the suit. Go back to the Batman 60s TV series and look at George Sanders, Otto Preminger, and Eli Wallach in the role of Mr. Freeze. He appeared 3 times on the show. Each time was a different actor. But look at those actors and then look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. If Arnold Schwarzenegger had been the man in the suit and outside of the suit, they had used a little bit more of a weaker, frail individual, I maybe could have bought that. But Arnold Schwarzenegger was incredibly miscast as Mr. Freeze. And George Clooney, he really did try, but Batman was not the role for him. Not at all. So 3 out of 5 stars for me. Like I said, I'm curious to know what you guys thought. Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Whatever you do, though, when you get out there on social media, let's try to get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and, of course, the ever-popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag Statboy Approved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And folks, if you thought that we had hit the bottom of the barrel with Batman and Robin, oh boy, do you have a surprise coming for you. As tomorrow we're going to take a look at 1997's Steel, starring Shaquille O'Neal. And yeah, tomorrow's going to be an interesting one as we take a look at Steel. To all my loyal fans and friends out there, join me for the premiere, leaving your thoughts and comments over here. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Likewise, all my loyal fans and viewers out there, tuning in a little bit later in the day, watching on demand, leaving your thoughts and comments down here. Thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate all my loyal fans and viewers out there. Tune in on a regular basis. Watch the show. Show me that love and support, trying to help me get my views up so I can eventually get monetized. Thank you very much to each and every one of you for watching and joining me today. And I will see you guys all next time.